Let's start at the bottom. The first fight is Luke Jamo versus Dachi Abe. And a lot of people are picking Abe, but I think that this fight's a lot closer than people give it credit for. I don't think Luke will be able to take Dachi down, but I think if it's just a straight kickboxing match, this could go either way. I think that this is going to be super close. I think it's going to be like 1-1 and one really close round. And I honestly think Luke Jamo is going to get it. I think because this fight's in Australia, just like with Machida versus Anders, I think if there's a close round and it's a close fight, then it's going to lean towards the hometown guy. So I'm going to go with Luke. I say he wins a pretty close decision. I think the fight's just going to be a straight kickboxing match the whole time. Next is Teruto Ishihara versus Jose Alberto. And Jose Alberto looks pretty good. I mean, he's 6-2 and he's won 3 straight in the UFC, but my biggest fear with him is he's literally fought one time a year his entire time in the UFC. He's been in the UFC for, like, this is his 5th year, and it's just one a year. And the fact that he's so inconsistent just scares the shit out of me, in all honesty. Ishihara Teruto is not the most consistent guy, but at least he fights, like, 3 times a year. Like, you look at the last 3 years, I think he fought 2 times in just one of them. So I just feel like they're both strikers. They're not the greatest grapplers overall. I mean, they both have decent takedown defense. They're decent at getting back up to their feet. I'd say Jose probably has the better conditioning, but Teruto's got more power. For me, it's just consistency. I feel like Teruto just fights way more often, and it's just harder to have faith in somebody that fights so rarely. Like, once a year is just not enough where I can put faith in that pick. So I'm going to go Teruto. I say he's probably going to win by knockout or TKO probably in the 2nd round. Next is Ross Pearson versus Mizuto Hirota. And to me, this fight's entirely just Ross Pearson's just taken way too much damage in his last 4 fights. I feel like he got knocked out in like 2 of them, and the other ones he got hit way too much. You know, Mizuto Hirota, he's won like 3 or 4 in a row, and then he had that one loss to Alexander Volkanovski, the guy who's fighting later in the card. That guy's a super great striker, wrestler, and that was a back and forth war. I mean, Alexander was obviously winning that whole fight, and Mizuto Hirota took a lot of shots, but he showed that his chin is still pretty strong. To me, I feel like this is the type of fight where Ross Pearson, like 2 or 3 years ago, would have won it easy, but I think now it's going to be one of those things where Ross Pearson's going to win this whole fight up until Mizuto Hirota lands a big shot. And I think once that happens, Mizuto Hirota is going to knock him out. I say Ross Pearson, like I said, he'll probably win the 1st round. He'll probably win the whole fight up until he gets caught, and that's what I think is going to happen. I think Mizuto's going to catch him sooner or later and win by knockout, probably in the 2nd round. Next, we got Jussier Formiga versus Ben Nguyen, and if Ben can keep this on the feet, he'll probably win, but I just doubt it. I think Jussier Formiga's eventually going to get this fight to the ground, and when he does, he's just too high a level. I feel like Ben, you know, he got beat by Louis Slamoka on the ground, and it was super one-sided. I feel like Ben, you know, he's really good at being super offensive, but when he has to be defensive, it looks like he doesn't do as well. And that's what's going to happen. If Jussier gets this fight to the ground, I feel like he's just going to dominate him and eventually win by rear naked choke. And I think that's going to happen either in the 1st or 2nd round. Next is Jeremy Kennedy versus Alexander Volkanovski. And to me, these guys are pretty even in terms of grappling. I think takedown offense, defense, and their control on the ground and stuff like that, they're probably even. I think Alexander has a huge advantage striking, and I also think he has a huge advantage in strength and power and like physique and shit like that. And that's the type of stuff that if you're dead even in jiu-jitsu, then the stronger guy is gonna win, just because he's gonna be able to, you know, move better in the transitions. We've seen it time and time again in the UFC. The more physically strong guy, when there's 2 equally good grapplers, usually ends up winning because he's able to hustle better in those transitions. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think it'll be even, but just because Alexander's stronger, and we've never seen him gas, like despite his big physique, he's just going to be able to out-hustle Jeremy Kennedy in the transitions. And I also think any striking situation, he's going to be able to light him up. So I'm going to say Alexander Volkanovski wins by decision, a dominant one. Next is Robert Wilkinson versus Israel. I don't know how to say this guy's last name, but Israel is a really great striker. He's had like 100 kickboxing fights or something like that, and he's won most of them. And he's 10-0 as an MMA fighter, like all KOs. Robert Wilkinson, we saw in his last fight. I mean, I don't know how great his conditioning actually is because he took that fight on super short notice, but I saw that his striking isn't that impressive. He's primarily just a grappler, and he gassed really hard. But once again, he took that fight on really short notice, so who knows if that's really how good his conditioning is. Either way, I'm going to lean toward Israel. I just feel like if he keeps this fight standing, he's going to knock out Rob Wilkinson. So, yeah, like I said, first round knockout for Israel. Next is Damian Brown versus Dong Hyun Kim, the lighter one. I feel like Dong is a good, well-rounded guy, but he hasn't beaten anyone super impressive. I mean, he beat Gomi, but at this point, Gomi's done. It's obvious that he's not anywhere near the level he used to be. And then he fought some other shitty dude and won. Damian Brown, you know, he's 2-3. They're both, like, I think Dong is 2-2. But I feel like his win over John Tuck, and not only that, but, like, his super close loss to Frank Camacho shows that he's at least decent. And they're both decent, but this fight's just super tough because they're both striker jiu-jitsu guys. And I'm just kind of leaning towards Brown because I think it's going to be a close fight, close decision all the way through with striking and grappling transitions. And I just think because it's in Australia, I have to lean towards Damian Brown to get a really close split decision just because he's the hometown guy. Next is Tyson Pedro versus Sabark. I can't say that. He's some Russian dude. He's the guy that fought that. He looks like a middleweight, and I'm really sorry I can't say this guy's name. It's really hard, but I feel like Tyson Pedro is just way bigger than this dude. I remember the Russian dude. He's the guy that fought Gil Vellante. He looked like a middleweight in my opinion, and I feel like, you know, Gil Vellante isn't even the biggest light heavyweight I've ever seen. Tyson Pedro's pretty up there, though. I feel like Tyson Pedro's just way too big for this dude. I think that he's going to have a big height and reach advantage over him. I also think he's going to have a huge grappling advantage, and that's what I think's going to happen. I think they're going to strike, and Tyson Pedro's either going to land like a head kick or something, or get this fight to the ground and win by submission. And that's what I think's going to happen. Probably first round dominant win for Tyson Pedro, just because of how much bigger he is than this guy. Next is Jake Matthews versus Li Jingliang, and to me, Jake Matthews looks like a small welterweight. Like, there's no other way to put it. When he fought that guy a couple months ago, he looked like he had a real hard time holding him down, getting him down to the ground, and that other guy just looked like he was able to. It was close, but I'm just saying he had a hard time fighting a middle-range guy. I feel like Li Jingliang, his takedown defense is going to be way better than that dude's was, and he's going to hit way harder than that dude did, because that other guy had all decision wins. Most of Li Jingliang's wins in the UFC are knockouts, other than like one. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think Jake's going to have a hard time taking him down, and I think sooner or later Li Jingliang's going to land that big shot and knock him out. And I think it's probably going to happen pretty early, in all honesty. I think Li Jingliang's going to win by KO. I just think he's the much better striker, and he's too big for Jake to just take down and control. So, like I said, first round KO for Li. Next, I got Tai Taisumov versus Cyril Asher, and to me, Cyril is just like a decent guy. He's decent everywhere, but he's not amazing. I think they're just trying to feed Ty another win so that way he'll look good. I think that Cyril is gonna box with him, get lit up, try to shoot for takedowns, not get them, and eventually in the first or second round, I think Ty, once he finds his range, is gonna win by KO. Next, we got Mark Hunt versus Curtis Blades, and if Mark Hunt has been continuously working on his takedown defense, I think he should win this fight pretty easily. I think he's the much better striker. I think that Curtis Blades gets hit way too much. I feel like in almost every single one of his fights I've seen, he's gotten hit with at least one decent shot here or there, and it's wobbled him or dropped him. I just feel like he gets too wild in the pocket, and I think guys are able to clip him. And I think a guy like Mark Hunt is way too good of a striker to just brawl like that. He's going to catch you. And I mean, the only way I see this is if Curtis is able to take him down, consistently just hold him down. Hopefully Mark Hunt, I mean, we saw in that Derek Lewis fight, I mean, Derek Lewis is not the greatest wrestler ever, but he was still able to stuff all of those takedowns. And I think if the same thing happens, you know, he's not as good as a striker as Derek Lewis was, and I think he's just going to get clipped continuously, and eventually Mark Hunt's going to win by KO, probably in the late first, early second, is what I think. Finally, we got Yoel Romero versus Luke Rockhold, and to me, I mean, I feel like the only way Luke can win this fight is if he keeps him really far on the outside with his kicks, which I don't think he'll be able to do, or if he's able to get on top of him and mount when they're on the ground. Because we've seen that Luke, once he gets mounted, guys, that's usually it. I mean, he's got probably one of the strongest mounts in MMA. I think that Yoel Romero, like, he's hard to take down and hard to hold down, and I think what's going to happen is, you know, we've seen time and time again, Luke has a hard time blocking punches for some reason. And I think that sooner or later, Yoel's going to time him right, get in, and land that big, like, overhand right, or like an uppercut. And I think Yoel's probably going to win by first or second round KO. And he's not going to get taken down, he's not going to get mounted. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe.